Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about something that most of you have heard me talk about quite often, and that is that I do Sidereal Astrology, which is what Vedic astrologers use for the most part. And I also say I am a Vedic Sidereal astrologer, not tropical Western. And most of you are more familiar with Western astrology because here we are in the West and that is most practice. But did you know there is actually more people who do Sidereal Vedic astrology, the Sidereal system, in the world? There are more that practice that, mainly because of India and Asia has bigger populations. But here in the West, we're more familiar with Western astrology. So before I began with my dissertation here, I want to remind everyone to sign up for my free newsletter where you will get all of my predictions delivered to your email address free every week. Go to galacticcenter.org. While you're there at my website, make sure you take note of my amazing magazine, Joni Patry's Astrology Insights, comes out once a month, full of great articles, as well as my shooting star class that we meet every week and we work on higher consciousness and manifestation. And don't forget, I have a school all online, and that is my Vedic Astrology School. Go to universityofvedicastrology.com. So with that, let me get into what the difference is between tropical Western astrology versus Vedic Sidereal astrology. Now, most of you know I was a Western astrologer for 20 years before I shifted to Sidereal Vedic astrology. And let me explain what the difference is. And so many people get so caught up with the argument about which one's right, which one's wrong. Did you ever think that possibly they could both be correct and they are just different ways to get the same answer? And I really, really want to tell Western astrologers that always are trying to disprove Vedic Sidereal, why don't you try to learn something new? That's what I did. And it is something, well, it's really, it's not new. It's probably older, but the arguments really have to end here because there's value in both. They're both based on reality, something that is real. Now, tropical astrology that is used in Western astrology is based on the sun. And it's tropical. It represents the sun's movement will dictate the seasons on Earth, and therefore that change is relative. Everything is focalized through the sun. Another thing that Western astrology is very big with are the angles in a chart, which are huge. Yes, the ascendant, the descendant, the midheaven, the nadir, those angles, when planets cross those in your chart, are huge. Life changes will occur. There is no doubt about that. No doubt at all. And the sun, I mean, we all associate with our sun sign to a certain degree because this is based on the sun. But to put all the other planets in their signs, I don't know if I totally agree with that. But the sun is the basis. It creates the seasons. And our sun sign, that time of year when our birthday comes around, all the meanings of those stars pretty much influence where the sun is. It's our vantage point from Earth, yes. But let me talk a little bit about sidereal. I always say sidereal astrology, which is the system used in Vedic, is true to the stars. Why do I say it's true to the stars? What does that mean? Well, these stars are, the stars in the heavens are called fixed stars. Why are they called fixed stars? Because they're groupings And their arrangements that the ancients depicted all of the star lore of the lion, the crab, the twins, all of those will never change. Those groupings, they all move together, they're fixed and they don't change. In other words, we're not going to get distorted images of the crab, the lion, the twins. They will always be in their relationship, the stars. Remember, we're talking about stars. And so many sayings throughout the years and the centuries are based on the stars, like, oh, my stars. Or when the stars aligned. People use these terms all the time and they don't even realize they're talking about astrology. That's just something that is part of our language because it's part of our history, our world. The stars have meaning. They have depth. The ancients wouldn't put together all the stories and the myths. The Greeks, the Indians in India, as well as the Mayans, there's all the star lore in the mythology. And they have deep-rooted meanings, especially even in religions. When you talk about religions, I mean, the three wise men were following the stars. And they knew when the stars would come when certain planets would come together with certain stars, that this would be the time to look for the new transformational change through the Savior, the Messiah, whatever. But all of this is based on the stars. And the stars are so relevant in terms of depicting what's going on Earth. For example, precession of the equinoxes. What is precession? The precessional cycle means that the wobble of the Earth, our vantage point from these stars, changes. And this what sets up the chart or the zodiac when we're calculating birth charts. So depending on where the Earth has shifted this wobble, the stars relative to the Earth and how we view them is what makes sidereal astrology different than tropical astrology, because tropical astrology will only use 0 Aries as the beginning of the zodiac. And why did they use 0 Aries? Because it is the beginning of the spring. It's based on the sun. The sun, when it starts in its equinox phases, when it hits 0 Aries, that in the northern hemisphere is spring. Of course, it's going to be opposite in the southern hemisphere. But these are the angles and the starting points of the zodiac for Western astrology. But with Vedic astrology, since it's based on the stars and the movement of the stars, we're going to find that the zodiac has been shifting backwards. And it shifts backwards from our vantage point in the start of the zodiac that we use in sidereal astrology. It shifts backwards from where the western point is, and this is actually called the Ayanamsha, the difference between the beginning of the zodiac, 0 Aries, and the beginning of the zodiac where we start with sidereal astrology. And so with precession, all the stars are moving from our vantage point, and this is the true placements of where the stars are. So you see, when we look at a chart, we're looking at the planets that are evolving, and we make it geocentric, evolving from the Earth center. And these planets are it looks like revolving around us. Of course, we know we're going around the sun, but from geocentric, we're taking this. And from the sidereal positions, it is shifted backwards in the zodiac, almost a full sign from where the western placements are. Not quite. It's actually about 24 degrees backwards from 0 Aries. So the starting reference point in the sidereal zodiac is actually around 6 degrees of Pisces now. Remember, it moves backwards 1 degree every 72 years. So the whole precessional cycle, for it to go through all 12 signs of the zodiac, will take approximately 26,000 years. And so making this relative to the involvement of humanity when we go through these certain ages, the age of Aries, the age of Taurus, the age of Pisces, the zodiac is shifting through these. And let me just say that each of these signs will last approximately 2,160 years. So for the starting point of the zodiac, from beginning to end of Aries, it's 2,160 years approximately for each of these ages. So we're in the age of Pisces. And I know all of you have heard we're dawning on the age of Aquarius. Well, a lot of people think we're already in Aquarius, but according to this precessional cycle, we have a long ways to go, because we've got to finish out the 6 degrees of Pisces. And if each year is 72 years, let's consider it's about 340 some odd, 360 years before we get to the age of Aquarius. But we are dawning on it, because if it's 2,160 years for each sign, and we've only got 340, 360 years to go, then we are dawning on the age of Aquarius. But you've heard this. This is all about the precessional cycle of the stars, the groupings of the stars. But let me get back to basics here. So you know this whole cycle, the sidereal system, bases its zodiac on the fact that the cycle is shifting, the wobble of the earth, our vantage point to the stars, which don't actually change their patterns and the way they're arranged in the heavens. But here's the interesting thing about the sidereal zodiac. We say the stars are true. I say the stars are true to themselves. So in other words, there's 4 royal stars that are the brightest, pretty much the brightest. There's others in the heavens like Sirius and the North Star, but I'm going to talk about the 4 royal stars, because these stars are so important. I mean, the sailors all look to these stars, to their guidance as to when they're traveling. And I'm going to give you a lot of information about these 4 royal stars. But they are the stars that pretty much depict the seasons, the cardinal axes, the pillars of the heavens from our vantage point on Earth. But I'm going to talk about these 4 royal stars because they are pretty much the seasons. And did you know that these stars are relative to the 4 archangels? And this takes in the whole spiritual dimension of astrology with the angels. And another thing that has been said about all of this is we are in a very dark age. As a matter of fact, 2,000 years ago was the darkest time on planet Earth. And if you go back 2,000 years ago, you know, we were just coming out of the age of Aries, which is nothing but war and fighting. Well, we're not too much past that. We still have war. We're still fighting. We're still killing one another. So if this precessional cycle takes, what, 26,000 years to complete? It's in a cycle, but at about the point of half of that cycle, 13,000 years, that comes to the point of the highest level of consciousness on our planet. But we are only 2,000 years past the lowest ebb. And so, in other words, we've got about 11,000 years before we come to a higher level of consciousness here on this dimension of Earth. But talking about these 4 royal stars that we see in the heavens, they are relative to the 4 cardinal points, or the 4 dealing with these points are really the fixed signs that are fixed in the heavens. And let me explain that. So what are the 4 royal stars? We have Aldebaran, which is the bull. And Aldebaran is said to be the eye of the bull, the red eye of the bull. It's a red star from our vantage point. And this particular star will always be in Taurus. Western astrology is trying to convert the eye of the bull into the sign of Gemini. That's why I say Vedic astrology is true to the stars. You can't put the eye of the bull in Gemini. That just isn't where it's moving to. So the stars are constant. They're fixed. As well as Regulus is the heart of the lion. It will always be the constellation of Leo, the lion. It is not going to be in Virgo, as Western astrologers are trying to make it. So that's where I have a difference of opinion. You cannot put these stars in different constellations. They constitute the constellations. The heart of the Scorpion, which is in Taurus, how can you say that it's in Sagittarius? It is in Scorpio. So, and Fomulat, you know, Fomulat is going to be where it is, and that constitutes Aquarius. So let's talk about these 4 royal stars. The seafarers had to use these stars for direction. So Aldebaran is the eye of the bull. And exactly opposite, it's very interesting, 15, 16 degrees of Taurus Scorpio, exactly opposite. We have Scorpio, which is Antares, which is the heart of the Scorpion. So the eye of the bull, the heart of the Scorpion, exactly opposite. 15 degrees of Taurus, 15 degrees of Scorpio. Okay, the other axes, which is Leo Aquarius. And Leo Aquarius, Leo is the lion. And Regulus is the bright star that constitutes the heart of the lion. And pretty much, not quite opposite, but almost in the sign of Aquarius, which is the opposite sign of Leo, sits Fomulat, which is part of what? The water bearer. So what we're looking at are these 4 royal stars that constitutes the heavens, and it really does constitute the seasons, such as when we look at Aldebaran, it's the marking of spring pretty much, or Regulus would be somewhere around Leo, which is kind of midsummer, and this will eventually shift the seasons with precession, but for right now, and we have Antares is pretty much what the ancients or the seafarers would constitute fall. It's in Scorpio, and Fomulat is what constitutes the winter, which is in Aquarius. So you see, this is what they've pretty much depicted these stars in relationships to the seasons. But they also have where we're looking at Aldebaran, which is south, Regulus, which is Leo, is east, and Antares, which is Scorpio, is north, and Fomulat, which is Aquarius, is west. This is how they could get directions from the stars. But another thing that is definitely deeply spiritual is that these 4 royal stars are relative to the 4 archangels. And this is the spiritual relevance that comes deep with this, such as, and all of the 4 archangels deal with guidance and protection, and all of them are important to all of us. So Aldebaran, which is the eye of the bull, is Michael. Regulus, which is the heart of the lion, is Raphael. And Antares, which is the heart of the scorpion, is Uriel, and Fomalhaut, which is the water bearer, is Gabriel. So these are all very spiritual reference points. And the star lore has so much depth with spirituality when you really start to study it. So my saying is, Sidereal Vedic astrology is true to the stars, meaning that these stars constitute these signs, and that doesn't change. You cannot move the heart of the lion into Gemini. So they stay constant, and their meanings, representations. So when we talk about our planets in our birth chart, they're moving across the backdrop of the stars, but the stars have moved backwards, and that's why you get different positions in your sidereal Vedic chart. And just between you and me, when I do the entire map of the sidereal Vedic chart, I've gotten much better results in my years of practice using sidereal astrology. I got very good results in Western tropical astrology, but this is the tool for prediction, and it's true to the stars. And let me just say this is very important. It is deeply, deeply spiritual with its representation of the stars. This is the astrology of the stars. Sidereal means star. The stars don't change. And therefore, they give you the deep depth of our lives, that we are immortal and we keep coming back and we never die, nor do the stars. And actually, in Vedic astrology, the 27 nakshatras, their meanings are derived from the stars. And there's 27 of them relative to the lunar calendar. It is an amazing tool and technique when you really get associated with the stars and what they mean. And when you really want to get into their meaning, you get into the 27 nakshatras. Their meanings are from the stars. And did you know that nakshatra actually means that which never decays? The stars, they're groupings, they're fixed, they stay, and we are here eternally, and we are all connected to the stars. Yes, the stars are the heavens, the spheres of spiritual truth. They speak to us through astrology. This is an amazing science. It is the science of sciences. And yes, there's been so much downplay about astrology throughout the centuries. And let me tell you something about that. Astrology was revered as the science of sciences, and it was handed down by the great seers, the great rishis of India. They have all the writings that we take to decipher astrology, the astrology from India. Vedic means it comes from the Vedas. The oldest reference in astrology comes from the Vedas. And they speak of what? The nakshatras. So you see, one last point I'm going to make that is really important. Remember how I said we are in one of the darkest evolutionary times of humanity? Well, put on the news if you don't believe me. Those that are in power are sometimes some of the most power-hungry people in the world. Look at the ruler of Russia. Look at the ruler of China. And I have to say, the United States, in terms of its rulership, is not the evolved spiritual beings of the times of evolutionary progress eons ago. It is a very dark age. I mean, just the other day, I'm going to be talking about this a lot. Just the other day, they've pretty much come out with proof. I mean, they really have, about alien life on planet Earth. And what is the consciousness? People didn't even really react. This is huge. One of the most monumental things of all time, that there's alien life here, and people ignored it. You put on the TV, they're talking about Biden, Trump, putting impeachment of, all of that, or Barbie. Instead of what is going on, that gives you an idea of the level of consciousness going on planet Earth. It is really low right now. And the world leaders they're the power hungry, the ones that can control the masses with fear. They control through fear. This is a low level of consciousness. We're in a dark age, and my whole point with this is they have downplayed the spiritual science of astrology to be a pseudoscience, and they make it reference to the newspaper sun signs instead of the science behind the stars that it truly is. It takes into account, I am serious, it takes into account all of the sciences. Astrology is geometry, the relative portions to the planets from one another, physics, astronomy, psychology, numerology, and not to mention spirituality. What is behind the stars and the representations of the angels? And beyond that, the deities from the nakshatras. This is all so evolved and spiritual, but in our day and age, we don't get it because of the low level of consciousness. We're in the dark. But eventually, I won't be here, but eventually we will come to a place of awareness of the importance of astrology. And you've heard me talk about the future of astrology. That's what I've named my conferences, which I will be holding once a year. Why do I call it that? Because this is where the future of astrology is going, to the stars, the representation and understanding of the stars, which will lean more towards more and more and more sidereal, because we're going to be talking about the stars and how they reflect humanity and where we're headed. So with that, I'd like to close. I hope you've gotten something out of this. And if you're a Western astrologer, open up to learning something new. I'm not telling you that your system's wrong. I'm just saying learn something new. It gives you more information. Why would you say something's wrong when you haven't even studied it? That's what the general population does with the theory and science of astrology generally. They have a strong opinion about it, but know nothing about it. Open up to looking at sidereal astrology. It's amazing. It's transformed and changed my life, and it will yours as well if you open to it. So with that, I'll close. Remember, if you want to learn Vedic astrology, I have a stellar university called the University of Vedic Astrology.com. That's my website. Sign up. You can sign up anytime. It's all self-paced. If you want to learn this, I can become your teacher. Join our university. And if you want to learn more about me, go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org. Thank you.